The Joker's been laughing his way into pop culture stardom for 75 years. Born in a medium knock for shitty zingers and subpar character development, he stands out as a constant reminder of life's emptiness and societal instability.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
Debuting in Batman #1, the Joker was the first villain to really challenge him. When Batman was only in Detective Comics, so devotedly dozens of other books, he fought generic foes, like street thugs, who were killed or written out at the end of each issue. The Joker broke this mold, and became the first stylized villain in comics capable of connecting with an audience. His debut included everything we'd expect from a great Joker story. Smiling victims, a calling card. Meat. Originality aside, the Joker nearly didn't survive his debut. Batman co-creator, Bill Finger, pushed for his death, fearing that a recurring villain would make his hero look weak, something fans of anti-heroes like the Punisher and Wolverine still argue today. Fortunately for the Joker, then editor Whitney Ellsworth interfered in order to panel showing his survival. He quickly became a hit, appearing in 11 of Batman's first 13 issues, earning a loose reputation as one of his first rivals. His crimes reflected people's experience with random struggle and loss after living through the Depression. People already believed their money had no value, so the Joker's murderous behavior was more in step with public fears than street thugs just robbing banks. The fact that he was a constant problem Batman couldn't fully handle was relatable to the millions of people who felt unable to control their own lives on a daily basis. Fear of communist corruption in the 50s made censorship more possible than ever. HUAC, and the Hollywood Blacklist, sent a clear message to the entertainment industry to toe a safe line. On top of that, in 1954, psychiatrist Frederick Wertham released Seduction of the Innocent, arguing that comic books and the displays of violence, sex, and drugs were causing increased rates of juvenile delinquency. Despite the study's lukewarm response, the comic book industry got together and voluntarily established the CCA to monitor their work in the age of increased scrutiny. The Joker's murderous side disappeared and he became overly goofy. His schemes replaced realistic violence with sci-fi hoopla. Why would someone even want to be the #1 criminal on the moon? Does that help you somehow? These unrealistic plans allowed Joker to be seen as villainous, while ensuring his actions wouldn't be mimicked by the susceptible youth. Who knows, maybe when Russia has a moon base, or Elon Musk is a full-blown supervillain, these kinds of sci-fi stories will become relevant again. Due to editor-in-chief Julius Schwartz's unexplained hatred for the Joker, he essentially disappeared in 1964, until the '66 TV series re-cemented his popularity. Cesar Romero's portrayal dominated the character's personality in and out of comics for years to come, building on the tameness introduced in the 50s, replacing ruthlessness and guns with zaniness and goofy gadgets. The Joker didn't focus on personally challenging Batman or striking fear, he just kinda did stuff without impact. TV made him a household name, but Joker once again disappeared from comics in 1969 because he was just too ridiculous. The show's campy tone dominated the comics, but aging readers found it stale, and they wanted darker stories that reflected the world they saw around them. Schwartz's Joker embargo ended in about 1973, 2 years after the CCA eased some restrictions on murder and punishment. Vietnam War casualties were on TV for years at this point. People could handle murder in their comics again. Writer Denny O'Neil was tasked with revitalizing the character, and he was no stranger to integrating real-world hysteria in his work. 2 months after the nation heard this,
public enemy #1 in the United States is drug abuse.
O'Neil dropped a story where Green Arrow's sidekick Speedy dipped into some of the Speedy. Joker became a killer once again, whose insanity was emphasized to make people feel on edge and uncomfortable. In order for each appearance to feel impactful, he was used sparingly. He wasn't some bully just doing random things anymore, he was carefully plotting, waiting to inflict as much damage as possible. His behavior reflected people's shattered illusions of unity after groups like the Zodiac Killer or the Manson family rekindled the public's fear of meaningless violence. The difference between Joker and the killers he reflected were his limits. Serial killers may strike fear in their victims, but he laughs at you for feeling afraid and not understanding life's insignificance. While heroes try to instill hope, he wants you to feel small. In his opinion, meaninglessness is the only thing people should expect, and he wants you to feel dumb for thinking differently. When the country started seriously tackling environmental issues, he once again mocked the public's fear. Only a few months after the Clean Water Act of 1977 passed, the Joker fish was introduced. Instead of some unknown, disinterested actor causing pollution, the Joker was behind our problems, laughing at us as we struggled with the consequences.
Since every fish in Gotham now bears my famous and frankly fabulous face, I should be getting a profit from every fish product sold. Let's say, a nickel per fish sandwich?
The CCA was still around in the 80s, but publishers didn't really take it seriously anymore, and DC embraced darkness. Joker became overly personal in his attacks, picking away at Batman's self-confidence and the things he loves most. The Joker had kidnapped Robin dozens of times, but in 1988 we see him cross the line and learn that Batman, like anyone else, can fail those he loves most.
Batman's not coming to save you, Jason.
In an era that stressed personal responsibility, people didn't want to blame themselves for failure or loss. As if an arc with the Joker killing Robin wasn't going to be controversial enough, DC chose to integrate some renewed international tension into the story. Months after the US military allegedly mistook an Iranian commercial jet for a fighter plane, killing all 290 passengers on board, Ayatollah Khomeini literally offered the Joker a job. The US had no idea if or how Iran would respond, so to mock the tension, the Joker tries to kill the entire UN assembly. I'm not even going to comment on how wrong that is, except to say that once again, the Joker understood what made Americans uncomfortable, and he was able to mock them for how far they thought events could unfold. Even in Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, Joker's torture of Barbara Gordon sends Batman and Jim Gordon a message that if they were smarter or quicker, they could have saved her. The violent act directly impacts Barbara, but the Joker is more interested in making Batman feel like a failure than anything else. He doesn't want to kill Batman, he just wants him to feel small. Something people overcoming loss struggle with every day as they contemplate if they could have somehow made things better. The 21st century Joker is best described by Grant Morrison's term super insanity, an imaginary psychosis that allows him to retain his intellect while undergoing radical personality shifts. From the classic Arkham inmate all the way to a bored London detective, the Joker shifts in tone as he bides his time and devises new ways to strike against Batman. Under Scott Snyder's supervision, the Joker transformed from Batman's personal court jester into an ever-watching boogeyman. In the world of endless information, he twists himself into your life when you aren't looking. Don't post on Facebook that you'll be away for the weekend. The Joker just might be holding your baby when you get back. Like the internet trolls that steal people's private information for no real reason, the Joker watches everything you make public and patiently waits to take it all away. He might understand that the world is chaotic and meaningless, but just like the rest of us, he craves a sense of purpose, something to push him forward. He doesn't want us to overcome our fears, he wants us to wallow in them and to let them corrupt our view of the world's potential.
All it takes is one bad day.
Don't get too caught up in the people trying to make you feel afraid. The Joker shows you how clown-like they really all are.